All right. Today I have with me David Wall. David is the co-founder of Dusted in the UK. Thanks for coming on the show today, David.
My pleasure, David. We're not going to forget who's who, but yeah,
Yeah,
good to be here.
awesome. Well, we had talked before today and just kind of got to know each other a little bit. And you started Dusted back in 2004, I believe.
Yeah,
Um,
a long time
I'd
ago.
love to get a little bit of the backstory there. What inspired you to launch the agency? And yeah, I mean, I guess maybe what part of what has kept you going
Yeah,
20 years later?
yeah. Well, I mean, crumbs. Yeah, 20 years is quite the innings. I mean, to answer your first question, what inspired us was, I guess, a need and a desire to do our own thing. It was myself and my business partner, perhaps thinking that we could do things better in terms of starting an agency and running it. Turns out that it's quite hard. There's a lot of hard work there to kind of do the right thing and get it right and not make too many mistakes. But yeah, 20 years on, we still have that drive and that passion. Um, I mean, to give you some idea of, I guess, what our origin story was like, back in 2004, we were amongst the likes of Gmail, Flickr, and something called the Facebook, all launching at the same time. And I'm glad that all of us are still around still. And it was, very early days for the web, very early days, certainly for kind of digital has been a thing that people or agencies delivered. And we were kind of at the forefront of that. A lot of the conversations that we were having at the time with our then clients were to do with the kind of embryonic versions of their own websites. And we had a kind of a natural skill set in digital that I think they really liked. And we really latched onto that in terms of that kind of being our specialism at the start. So we knew we were kind of onto a good thing. We knew that we were able to kind of really kind of carve out a bit of a specialism or niche for us in terms of what was needed at the time. And a lot of the conversations, even back then, were things that would just be quite comical or laughable right now. And if I was to say to you, hey, we're doing Web 2.0, I think people would look at you and wonder why that's of any importance right now. But in 2004, it was a big deal. Those are the buzzwords that we had to kind of ensure in every single pitch that we did, really. But we did have a desire to set out to build an agency that was going to be fully integrated, a full service agency, even as just two guys that we were at the time delivering a full service for clients. And now we've kind of really fulfilled that vision. It's great to see finally.
Yeah. So nowadays, I think we had talked that you focus kind of on strategic branding and digital marketing. Is that right?
Yeah, so we've really fine-tuned our offer. One of the things that we've learned along the way in the last 2 decades is to specialize. You can't be a generalist because nobody buys that. Um, Very early on, we were kind of saying yes to everything. I mean, if something came through the door, yes, we'll worry about whether we can do it later. We'll just say yes. And for the first few years, we did very well out of that. We really kind of expanded our offer beyond kind of just delivering websites. But the kind of later versions of Dusted really saw us knuckle down into saying, look, actually, we need to be saying no to some stuff. And it's quite hard to do that when you're a young fledgling agency with cash flow to worry about and overheads. And that specialism was really driven by what we saw as I guess, a client need for a strategically led exercises that delivered a very strategically led brand, and then what falls out of that in terms of website comms, collateral marketing, or what we refer to as activation, basically. So It's something we now that really properly defines what we do and deliver for our clients, and really what our reputation is in and what they're coming to us for. So it's been finely tuned over the years, and we've got it right now in terms of our approach, our process, our people, and everything really that's there under the dusted roof.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes that's what it takes to really dial something in. It's like you can't just start from scratch and have all that stuff figured out. A lot of it's just your, trial and error. You're tailoring it more and more to what the market needs. And when the market changes, you'll probably change a little bit. And and when technology changes, you'll probably have to adjust again, which is you've probably had to do
Yeah,
multiple times.
absolutely. Yeah, I mean, we were around when everything went big in terms of social media, and we thought that's what we need to be doing. 3 years after we founded, Apple launched the first iPhone, and we felt like we should be offering to do apps without any real knowledge of how to do apps, because that was what people were talking about, and we felt like we had to kind of be part of it. There was a bit of a zeitgeist thing going on. There's also a bit of a bandwagon thing going on, and you don't want to feel like you're left behind. But that kind of comes back to what I was saying in terms of saying yes to almost everything, saying yes to perhaps too much. And now when that stuff comes along, we have to really kind of, well, not actually think too hard, because it comes very natural to us now. But back then we had to kind of think about whether it really fitted our specialism, our sweet spot, and whether it was actually something that we had the skill sets in-house to deliver. I think we probably learned the hard way, sitting in meetings with clients, and they were asking us, what we do, what we are, what can we do for them, and us literally saying, oh, what's your need right now, and we can deliver that, as opposed to what it's like now, when people really, our clients really seek us out based on our reputation to deliver strategically led branding and digital and marketing, and ensuring that that's what we talk about when we go and see them, because that's really what their needs started out as. Sometimes we have to kind of challenge the clients a little bit when they say, oh, we need a website, and actually we realize they need a brand first, and say to them, look, there's no point in having a conversation about your homepage right now when we need to have a conversation about what makes you different within your own market, because that's what we have to define first, and educate them perhaps a little bit on what branding is for them, to get them to understand it, and eventually at some point pay for it too.
Yeah. I think I was talking with someone recently that we kind of, referred to it as, you have to be kind of the doctor who is going to be like diagnosing things first, not just jumping into prescribing some sort of solution. And I think when a client comes to you and says, oh, we need this particular thing, it's like, well, I'm not going to write a prescription for that
Yeah.
immediately. I'd like to ask you a few questions first to make sure that this is actually what is going to help you. And, it may well be, but it might be that once I ask a few additional questions, we find out that what you really need is this other thing. And we can help you with that.
Yeah. I like the doctrinality. The analogies that we use are ones of being a chef, or perhaps a tailor. We can't define what you're going to wear today without really understanding what your day is going to be like. Is it business? Is it casual? Equally, if we were preparing if we were preparing a 3-course meal for you, we've got to know what your dietary requirements are going to be. We need to know what you like. You need to perhaps choose from a menu, and we need to tailor, whichever analogy we use, tailor that to your needs, really. And I think fundamentally, not just kind of cookie cut everything from what we did previously. And I think that's where the tailor analogy really works, because we might be delivering the equivalent of a really high-end bespoke suit, and it's got to fit, it's got to work, and it's got to be something that perhaps they come back to us for afterwards for another suit. So that's what we kind of compare ourselves to. And there's a lot that kind of goes into that, obviously, in terms of who needs to deliver the thinking, who needs to deliver the research, who needs to deliver the actual finished thing at the end of the day. But yeah, I get the doctor thing. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Prescriptions, branding prescriptions. That could be a business.
Yeah, they're right. That makes a lot of sense. Well, the one thing, like you mentioned, kind of learning over time, kind of tailoring what you offer and having your own sort of internal clarity on what it is you do best for the market, like where your sweet spot is. Uh, but there's also kind of the piece of going to market, like, if you know what you do well and you do that for some clients, how have you found has been most effective for you in making sure the right people know that you exist and what you do well?
Well, yeah, right now we have 2 decades of reputation to base it on. I mean, it's I don't want to say it's easier, but it's easier than it used to be. I mean,
Hmm.
in the first few years, I think we were really surviving off our individual reputations and a bit of a Rolodex that we annihilated in terms of asking those people, what not what their needs are, but really what can we do for you, and do you need anything doing? But now it's very, very different because we have a reputation within our own industry. We have a reputation within a client base that we have worked with. Some clients have been with us for years, and they're continually coming back to us. So our reputation, without even going outside of the four walls of Dusted, we do very well out of. And that doesn't come easy because we've had to look after them. We've had to earn the trust of our clients, and
Hmm.
ensure that they are looked after in terms of us really being seen as a valued and considered consultant or partner for them. And getting to that stage requires, doing really well, listening and understanding what they need, and then delivering it and exceeding expectations, really. So reputation is a big part of that. You can't just sit back and rely on that solely. So we have a kind of finely tuned SEO strategy that kind of delivers consistent inquiries to us. And what's really good is that over the years, those have kind of settled down into delivering inquiries that fit already straight off the bat our sweet spot. So we don't have to kind of filter things too much. And that's consistent, and it works weekly for us in terms of inquiries that we want to follow up on. And that's absolute gold dust, I think. But what complements that is a kind of outbound strategy, both in terms of marketing. That's really based on, I guess, our own content, insight, and perhaps even events, and certainly the awards that we enter to kind of ensure that we're really maintaining and bolstering our reputation and being seen by the right people in the right places. We know what our client personas are, and we know that we want certain people checking us out because they are the decision makers that will hopefully come to us with a budget that means we can deliver everything we need to, really.
Right. Yeah, and it's like the reputation that you've built over those 20 years hopefully precedes you. But if it doesn't, you have some of those other sorts of things in place to um, kind of help aid in building that trust with maybe this
Yeah,
person who hadn't
absolutely.
heard of you.
I think a reputation gets us in the door, and that's the biggest step for any agency, is to get into the room with the client. You can send out emails, you can make phone calls, you can do all your speculative kind of mining of contacts and emailing lists, but you've got to get in the room with them. And we know once we're in the room, we stand the very best chance of convincing them to use us, because we're very charming and we're very professional and we know what we're doing. And not just me, but the team that we go in with, which are incredibly experienced professionals in their fields, heading up both the technical and creative and strategic sides of Dusted, to talk to a client in a way which perhaps they've never heard before, or they're really used to hearing, and you've got to kind of match that level, really. So yeah, that reputation gets us in the door, but at that point, you are relying on your skill set and experience and expertise to deliver either a pitch, or if you win it, deliver what's needed in terms of an actual project.
Yeah. Well, that brings up a good point around when you're going to pitch something. I know agency services are less tangible a lot of times than like pitching a software product or something like that, where you have a tangible interface that you're selling. And usually the price points are significantly higher than like a software product. So I know there's lots of conversations in the agency world around, you know, whether you should productize, whether you should go fully custom, that sort of thing. In your experience, what have you found works best as far as kind of um, what you offer, what you're bringing to the table and pitching to clients?
Yeah, well, I guess you again going back to the analogy of our Savile Row tailor. That's what we're delivering, and that's what we're bringing to a client is a fully tailored um, service. What we deliver for our clients is completely bespoke. It's not something that they can kind of take off a shelf and say, "Oh yes, I'd like that in a medium and this color, and there's my brand." Because brand at a very high level needs to be completely tailored to what that client needs, and it's based on a lot of thinking and insight and research and strategy, and not necessarily just something that's quite subjective in terms of, well, I like that and it's about the right size, it may fit. We have to
Hmm.
get it right based on some real thinking. And the reason why that's really important is because after we're done, somebody, the CEO may stop somebody in the corridor and say, why are we that color? And there has to be a reason.
Hmm.
I mean, that's simplifying a very complicated procedure at times, but really kind of narrows down to what's the science behind what we've delivered from a strategic and creative point of view. So we don't have anything that's kind of packaged in a certain way. The bits of what we do which are really pinned down and there's a kind of framework in place is our approach and our process, because
Okay.
we do have to cost that out. A client will say, how long will it take and how much will it cost? And we have to be able to say, right, well, we go through these stages and then actually tell them what the activities are per stage and what the deliverables are per stage, so that they know what they have in their hand at the end of it. And as you say, software can be really tangible. Like a suit, they know what they're going to get at the end of it before they've started
Right.
that process. Whereas brand can feel a little bit intangible in terms of, well, what am I getting for my money? And you have to really make that clear to ensure that they know that you're delivering value. You can always tell when you're in the wrong meeting, when the client looks at the costs and is just freaking out because they don't understand what it is, and they can see 3 or 4 zeros after the first number and thinking, I've got no clue. What I'm going to get at the end of this. Whereas experienced and seasoned marketeers will know the value of brand before you even enter the room. So those are the guys with the budgets that we want to kind of unlock, because that's what we're really aiming for in terms of, I guess, our own target audience.
Yeah. When you have those conversations, do you ever, I guess in order to price something, sometimes you need to do that initial research. Um, or do you have kind of like we'll take everyone through the process for a certain fixed fee, or is it we kind of have to do some research that's maybe they're not paying for the research, but this is like research you're doing as a agency on what you think makes sense and how much time it's going to take, and then you present them with a price? Or do you like break off sort of that research piece as something that they pay for, um, as more of I don't know, a diagnosis
Yeah.
component, and then give them pricing for the execution of it?
Yeah, well, I bet everybody listening to this who runs an agency would love to be in a position where they're appointed and they lean over, they start the meter, and then we're running, and they say to the client, "Okay, I'll let you know when we get to $1,000, $10,000, $100,000, just to keep you informed of what we're up to." Because what we're delivering is, it's a service. It's not, as I said earlier, not really product driven, but it's a service that's based on individuals' time. And where I think a lot of agencies come unstuck is when they do offer a fixed fee without perhaps thinking through the entirety of what they've got to deliver. Now, architects and civil engineers and people within construction will always have a few caveats in there. You know, I can't build your football stadium without saying, look, there's a contingency of several million here, so let's just be aware of that. And I think the same goes for scoping out anything in terms of brand or web or marketing. You have to define a scope and make sure that's very clear to the client up front, to be able to say, right, based on what we know at this stage, based on our discussions so far, and based on what we've literally written down here in our proposal, this is the cost. And that cost is based on these people's time, whose hourly rates or day rates are this. And that sounds really simple, but it did take us a long time to get into kind of modeling out all of those individual rates or rate cards for people who we know we need in the right place to deliver that level of work, and how long it will take. Because at the end of the day, you've got to sit back and say, right, you know, was that profitable? Was it worthwhile? Or did we massively exceed? Did we blow the budget on delivering that for a client? And if you did, and you did that all day long, then you're not a business. It's almost like being a non-profit organization delivering branding, which is not particularly good from our point of view. We need to ensure that we're running it like a business. So we do look at everything from a project point of view in terms of, you know, utilization, in terms of scopes, and ensuring everything is really pinned down as much as possible, so that we avoid those conversations that are quite tricky with clients when there's a little bit of scope creep or a little bit of an extra thing that has to be either delivered or they've asked for. And I think you've got to be confident to say, actually, that's outside of what we've talked about. It's going to be extra, but don't worry, we can map it out or scope it out as accurate as possible so that you know what you're in for. So, you know, it's about the accuracy. And I think that kind of comes with our experience as much as anything else, because we know what we're doing now and we know how long things take. So you can answer the two key questions clients have is, how long will it take and how much will it cost? And if you can say accurately what they're going to be, I think you do earn a lot of respect at that point.
Yeah. It builds trust just to be able to say with confidence what you can and can't do.
Absolutely. And also, if you kind of challenge things, you know, if a client feels like they're pushing you to get a bit more included, and you simply say no and explain to them why that's an extra week or 2 weeks, you know, the good and valued clients will respect you for making that clear to them. All that said, you sometimes just need to do a deal. And sometimes there's not a lot of difference between buying branding at a high level and buying a used car, because sometimes clients just want a deal, and you'd be crazy for not actually just saying, look, okay, we can do something here, but not in a way that kind of undermines your process or will compromise the people who have to deliver it, but certainly in a way that makes it look like you're being flexible. And again, clients will really appreciate that when you are in a new business scenario and you want to win that work, or you want to maintain a relationship. So it, you know, there is some kind of leveling out of everything that you have to kind of deal with on a weekly or daily basis. But at the end of the day, it's business, and you've got to make a profit, and you've got to be fully optimized in terms of what you're doing and delivering.
Absolutely. Well, the next question I had was around, you know, in an agency, you can close new business, you know, individual new clients, or you can build partnerships with people who are already working, maybe with people who fit your target profile. Have you explored or done partnerships to bring in new business, you know, kind of, I guess, build relationships with people that could be more of a steady stream of right fit clients for you?
We have. And I guess, again, that's one of the big differences between Dusted now and Dusted 20 years ago. 20 years ago, as we're saying yes to everything coming through the door, the relationships or partnerships are very short. You win your work, you deliver the work, and you perhaps don't see them again. And we realized the hard way and very quickly that where we need to be is not continually going out looking for work. It's exhausting. It's a big effort to win a new client, look after them. But what you really want is the same clients coming back to you. And there are two, I think, really key things to ensure that that happens. One is a client that has an ongoing need. Nobody is rebranding every single year, but they may have a marketing need every single year, or a website maintenance and support need ongoing throughout the year. So what we wanted to do very early on was kind of define our offer based on what's needed after we've perhaps done a rebrand. We've rolled out everything in terms of the visual identity, rolled out everything in terms of guidelines, etc. And we get into that era of activation where you can really start to grow a partnership, or what we would simply refer to as a relationship, delivering what the client needs on an ongoing basis, whether it be online, offline, printed, or in digital. And that's where you start to maintain clients long term. It's also where you start to have those conversations with clients about retainers, about them just buying time from you. And when you get to that point, it's great to kind of look at your forecast and say, oh, this is great. 50% of what's coming up this quarter is already in the bag because we have a client base that's agreed to do that work. So from a sales point of view, you don't have to go out and find 100% of the revenue that's needed for that quarter, only 50% or whatever it may be. So that's the best place to be, one of the most valuable in terms of looking after clients on an ongoing basis, either as a retainer or looking at perhaps budgets for the year. And it really helps with everything from forecasting to resourcing to ensure that the company is optimized and running as smoothly as it can be. The proof of that is the clients that we've had for a very long time. We've won their work, earned their trust, delivered what they've needed, and then continued to do that. We're never resting on our laurels, never kind of sitting back thinking, well, oh, this is easy, we can do this without even breaking into a sweat, but actually ensuring that we're not taking anything for granted. And again, that really helps to build our reputation, because those clients will be speaking to other people who then may call and say, actually, I heard from you, from an acquaintance, that you were the people to call. And that level of referral is so valuable. I mean, that's exactly the sorts of calls that you want to get to. So the partnership part of what we do is really important. It's not the whole thing, but it is great when you have a long-term client. And at Dusted, we do have a lot of long-term clients. One of our clients has been with us for 20 years.
Oh, wow.
Continually spending, us continually delivering what they need, and looking after them and being proactive as much as we can do to make sure that the 100th time we go see them, it perhaps feels like just like the first. And that's a business that's grown just like we have, and we've grown with them, and we're very good again at kind of working with clients long term when they're on a kind of ambitious growth journey.
Absolutely. Well, maybe that's a good place to segue into my last question, which is just around where do you see yourself going from here? Like, what do you have planned for the future? Where do you want to take the agency from here?
I'm going straight to retirement. That's the that's the ultimate goal. I mean, we are now really lucky because we have kind of done all the hard yards. We've been through an economic global meltdown. We've been through a pandemic. We've been through a recession. We've been through our own growing pains. It's been swings, roundabouts, ups, downs, dips, highs, lows. I think we've experienced it all to get to the point over the last few years where we've really fine-tuned our offer to be able to just build on its success. And what we're trying to do now is really target the customers and clients that we want to work with, of a certain size or in a certain sector. We want to be doing the stuff that we want to do, not necessarily the people who are just coming through our door. So we want to kind of target sectors that we get the most out of revenue or enjoyment out of working within, and doing the very best work for us. So we're really kind of at the best point of perhaps just his entire existence, in terms of everything's really sorted out internally, everything's really sorted out in terms of our offer, and we're highly confident now going in to see clients, and hopefully in terms of our own marketing, really targeting the people that we want to work with. And that's a fantastic point to be with any agency, where you are in a great position confidently from both your financial aspects, operations, and new business. So I guess that's a long-winded way of saying we're just enjoying it right now. It's a great place to be. We have the very best people doing some really great work for the client base that has never been better. And what's particularly great is that you can say to new prospects, go and speak to our clients. Don't just read testimonials, but if you want, here's their number, and you can call them and say, is David telling you the truth when he says, how good they are? So that's a great position to be in. Eventually, where we'd like to be is, perhaps realizing some value out of this whole existence, really. If a major conglomerate wants to snap us up, perhaps going back to 2004, and the Facebook wants to start a branding division, we could sell for a few million. But if we get to that point, that would be fabulous. But right now, we are really enjoying it and doing some fabulous work for some great clients, and ensuring really that we're delivering the very best value for them, and maintaining, as we talked about, those partnerships long term.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, David, this has been very fun. For folks who, either want to learn more about Dusted, who want to just connect with you and talk shop about agency growth, things like that, what's the best way for people to get in touch with you?
They can go on LinkedIn, search for me, go on dusted.com, find out more about us and what we do. They can see our work. It's worth noting that, we're happy to speak to people. I'm quite cheap to buy. If you give me a drink or a coffee and a slice of cake, I will talk shop. So we're happy to do that. But it also just, gives us an opportunity to kind of give a little back to people, because 20 years ago, we really valued a lot of the advice and guidance that we were getting from people who were much more experienced than us. And now we're in that position. It's great, really.
Absolutely. Well, thanks again for your time, and hope you have a good year ahead.
Yeah, here's to 2025 and everything it brings.
Hear, hear.
Thanks very much, David.
Thank you.